Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever this podcast may find you. It is I, as always, Gavin.
And I, as always, Justin.
What did we talk about today? We talked about manuals a lot.
We talked about manuals and our friend Colter, on his quest to, find a car, which is what led us into manuals, because he actually asked me a question about what led me to choose to drive a modern automatic, instead of a modern manual when I bought my first new car, which was the Stinger.
Right. And Colter, if you're down, if you want us to keep talking about your journey, let us know.
Yeah.
But we talked about manuals a lot. We talked about what current cars are being offered in manual. We've talked about Porsches because I'm involved.
Yeah. I updated on my Saab a little bit because
that's where the show started, actually.
Exactly. At this point, it's now not naturally aspirated anymore, even though it technically never was. But
Yay.
It was for a brief moment because the turbo wasn't happy.
Anyways, what else did we talk? I think that's kind of it. So let's just head on into the Exhibition Speed podcast. Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
No.
It's trying.
It's trying. It's a slow day for the apples.
It is.
What are you trying to herg-durger?
Facebook.
Oh.
One.
So the Zuck is being slow today?
No, it is just my computer because, if you haven't had one of these on for a while, and then you just slowly get boom, notification. It's just
Yep. And it's trying to sit there and process all that.
It's waking up. Yeah. It started off, it was unplugged for a couple days, maybe.
Okay.
And it started off at 22% battery.
Okay.
So it's like both of us waking up.
Coffee helps with that, I heard.
Yeah, cheers, bro.
I know, right? I already had mine. I'm on a Pepsi now.
Well, this is coffee number 2 for me.
Okay. Nice. Good news.
Good news!
Okay, so I had a little bit of an update on the Saab, which you've already heard, but
oh yeah,
people on the other end of this microphone have not.
Mm-hmm.
So for the past year and a half, my Saab, which is supposed to be turbocharged, has effectively been naturally aspirated. Because, for whatever reason, it wouldn't go past base boost. I know it didn't have a leak, because not only was there no noise, but it would sit up there right at zero.
Just enough to get the turbos turning.
Yeah, it would sit up there right at the 0 mark. So I know everything was sealed.
Vacuum.
I checked vacuum, checked all this stuff over the last little while, but since it hasn't been a daily, it hasn't been priority to check it out or fix it. And I even swapped out a little valve to see if it would work. And how those systems work, that's the first car with an electronic boost controller. They invented them. So ECU just controls fuel, is all it controls, because it just gets a reading from the distributor to tell where the engine is and tell the injectors where to fire. Ignition is manual because it's a distributor.
Right.
Boost is its own computer that has no technical link to talk to the ECU, but they react to each other. So boost controller has a little knock sensor, which is what detects knock and makes decisions on boost based on that.
Sure.
And then opens and closes the wastegate accordingly. So they kind of sit there and react back and forth, because once that happens, then the ECU throws more fuel in, et cetera, et cetera. It actually works very well considering how old the system is, and really, how finicky even modern systems that can talk to each other can be.
Yeah.
So I had swapped out the little valve that it uses to actuate the wastegate at one point, thinking that might be the issue, because usually when those fail, there's just, you stuck at what's called base boost, which is 0.
Right.
No vacuum, but just stuck at 0.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't help. But I realized on Monday of this week that I had never checked the electrical plug that goes to that valve.
By the way, this is a car that has 350,000+ miles.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay.
And I call it the original turbo. It might as well be at this point. It was warranted at 20,000 miles.
Okay.
But other than that, this is
as near as makes no difference.
Original-ish.
Yeah.
Because it was warranted in 1990. So this turbo still has 300 and some odd thousand miles.
It has 3 decades under its belt.
Yes, it's still doing very well. So I realized I hadn't checked that plug, and it's supposed to have 12 volts to it, just like everything in a car. So I pull it out and check it. It's got nothing. Okay, so that's either the boost controller's bad or some wiring is bad. I follow
the wiring or the plug.
Yeah, I follow the wiring back a little bit, and inside like the little loom that it was in, inside some shrink wrap, there was an ancient repair from God knows how long ago.
My God.
That you wouldn't...
Probably in the 90s.
Probably. That you wouldn't have ever seen. It might have like been something as simple as it brushed against the turbocharger, which is only 2 inches to the left, and shorted wiring at some point. And they had done this repair correct. Like, it was crimped and shrink wrapped. Like, it was sealed and everything.
It just happened forever ago.
And so I started wiggling it around with my multimeter attached and would occasionally get connection. And once I found that repair, I was like, that's got to be it. And even if it's not, it's only a 2-inch section. I can cut it out and reconnect the wires. And, you know, even if that's not the problem, I'm not any worse for wear.
I mean, we are in the weeds here with, like, you know, the history and, like, the automotive repair of this car.
So I did that, and I immediately had 12 volts back. I was like, you got to be shitting me. That's all this was. There wasn't any... Yet again, this car... Despite its age and mileage and the mainly, we'll call it the troubled relationship or reputation that Saabs have with some mechanics, just because it's different. Yet again, this car costs me nothing effectively for a repair.
Right. Whereas if you had a similar issue like that on the Audi, it would have probably come with a comma.
Oh, yes. I was actually comparing parts, and yes, almost every Audi price comes with a comma, whereas every Saab price, maybe not even a decimal.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So I plug it back in, get back on the road, and I drive. I'm like, oh my God, boost is back. Oh my God. The car doesn't have 100 horsepower anymore. It actually has 180 like it's supposed to.
Isn't it great?
So then the secondary problem was that car, parts are becoming really difficult. And that car is actually a prime example of like shit that's happened during COVID. Prior to COVID, most any part was readily available. Now, probably about...
Do you think this is due to COVID, or do you think this is coincidental?
It's due to COVID.
You think so?
The reason why is because if you think about it, there's about 20 to 30% of parts that used to be fairly readily available, even at like an O'Reilly's. You might have had to order them in, but they weren't on like the listing. That now you cannot even get anymore whatsoever.
Because they're just not being made? Mm-hmm. So previously, those were parts that were still in production?
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. They weren't like left over from like 10, 15 years ago?
No, I don't believe so.
Because like life cycles of cars, you know, the car will be in production, say a car is in production for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then they'll have a life cycle after that of 15, which is adding 25 years. And if you go back to when your car was made in the late 80s...
Yes.
It wouldn't be surprising if it was a coincidental thing, but also it could be COVID.
I have a little insider information on this because I have a friend that is a manager at an O'Reilly's. That
good old Easton that
can order parts.
He's a friend of the show. Mm-hmm. You guys have been friends for what, since high school?
Yep, and Saab buddies too. Like he has a 900 just like mine.
Yeah,
similar. Well, naturally aspirated.
It doesn't have a turbo.
Yeah,
like how yours used to be.
Exactly. So he has kind of watched this precipitous drop because he has a lot of Saab friends. A lot of the Saab friends go to him to like check for parts.
Sure, because he works at O'Reilly's.
And he's watched on his back catalog as these aftermarket but readily in production parts have slowly gone down. And he knows that they were new because he would see some of them, like engine mounts, occasionally go out of stock and come back in stock.
Oh, okay.
So he knows that at least some of the parts were probably directly affected with COVID because the way he explained it was, although he doesn't have any direct information from a vendor, like if you look at it, these are when they were looking at, you know, let's say like May, right after first lockdowns, stuff like that, like when everything was really hot. Mm-hmm. They have people out of work. They have starting to have material shortages, labor short, you know, like all this stuff going on. And when somebody's looking at like what parts they make, they're going to be like, okay, these are parts for 30-plus-year-old cars
that not a whole lot of people drive anymore.
Mm-hmm. That from a dead company.
Right. Yeah. Also that.
Like stacking all these things together, like, oh, yeah, we can kind of cut that out, even though like at this point, there's no absolutely, you know, R&D cost at all because these are decades old parts.
Right.
It's cheap for them to make, but it's also like, oh, we can cut those out and not really take a loss and then focus on making other things.
Right, right.
So he thinks that there was a lot of that because now, in the past 2 years, we've seen engine mounts be completely unobtainable, calipers become completely unobtainable. Fortunately, like brakes and pads and shit share with enough that they're still good. And same with distributors. And fortunately, most of the like alternator and shit on that car was still GM related.
Oh, really?
Like
from the 80s?
Mm-hmm. Like a lot of things were in the 80s. Actually, prime example is my Audi 200. The climate control unit for that was a Cadillac one.
Oh, whoa.
Because at the time when Audi was suffering with money, they were like,
Right.
it was cheaper to just buy one from Cadillac than to make their own.
Because Cadillac wasn't doing that great either.
Because GM
They were cheap.
GM in the 80s and 90s was making a killing off of selling parts to other companies like that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So it was easy. Anyways, so fortunately, those parts and regular running gear are still available, but some of the more lost in the weeds parts have become, when they were used to be very easy, have now become difficult.
Huh.
And engine mounts is one of those, which is where I was getting to with this. I've mentioned before, I've had engine mount issues quite a bit because they haven't been really made in 10 years. Stock basically ran out and ran dry. So I found a dude on, it's called Modern Classic Saab, where he basically just makes reproduction parts or specialty parts for Saabs. And he makes a belay engine mount that what it does is it's just basically a big piece of aluminum that fits in the original engine mount hole, and then it uses two off-the-shelf PowerFlex bushings that aren't specific to it as the bushing for the engine. So what's cool is that if anything ever goes bad, you can just replace those two bushings for $40. You're back on the road. Bought one of those because my front engine mount has once a year I've had to replace it.
And maybe you have to, replace that housing every 100K? I mean, depending on how and where you drive.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
I mean, you have a lot of construction going out in front of your house, so
Yes.
who knows? Might be shorter.
Exactly. So I got that and put it in last night because now that it was making full boost, when it was 100 horsepower, I wasn't really concerned about the bushing not being the happiest.
Right.
I'm not going to tear it.
It wasn't moving around that nearly as much as it would have been with boost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once I got the boost back, I could feel the engine shifting around. I'm like, yeah, it's time to do that. So I bought that, and then really $175 for a custom-made part like that.
It's really not bad.
No, not at all. If that was anything Audi related, times that by 5.
Probably.
Yeah. Actually, with the exception
4 maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 4X.
Yeah. Depends on the Audi, because my older one shared so many engine mounts with different things that they're pretty cheap. But still more expensive than that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite the adventure last night. Our friend of the show, Carson, with the R32s, was also over helping me change that engine mount out.
Oh, cool.
Which theoretically is pretty easy because everything's accessible in there.
You use this word, theoretically.
Yes. Mount came with no instructions, but it's pretty straightforward. There's not much to screw up, really. And he provides a little rubber washer even to just hold the bolt in place while you get it in place so you can screw the nut on and nothing the bolt doesn't just fall out, stuff like that. Put it all in, and just things are just not fitting quite right, and the engine's sitting a little high. I'm like, this is just so weird. And
that happens with a lot of custom stuff, though, or even high production exhaust systems for cars. Sometimes they don't quite if there's a molding on a rear bumper of a car.
Yep.
It's very rare that a pipe actually goes through and is actually properly lined up with proper clearances. That's why I was so surprised with my car, even with my MBRP catback.
Yeah.
That actually fit rather well.
Yeah, so I get this in, just things are weird. It's sitting up a little high, and the original mount isn't working quite right, so I'm trying to kind of figure it out, get it back together, and the mount that I actually pulled out of there wasn't torn. The mount that was torn was actually the passenger side one. But all 3 mounts on that car were interchangeable, which is really cool, so I just took the mount that I just pulled out that was still good, and I was like, okay, I'll go throw this good mount on the passenger side because I'm already torn down enough to just quickly get it. And as we're trying to do this, I notice even more things are not right because the engine's forcing itself back against the other mount, so it's a pain in the ass to get on the 2 studs and the big old bolt that goes to the engine and everything. And we fight with this for an hour, and then I realize as I'm looking at the front of the car, hang on, that engine's sitting up way too high to clear my hood.
Oh.
Something's not right.
Oh.
And then I realize I installed that engine mount up front upside down because they...
Well done.
Yeah. The way these engine mounts are is they're completely the same all the way around. They can go left, right, up, down. You could literally, with this engine mount it any direction because it doesn't have a stud. It just has a bolt that goes through. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I mounted it with the area that the bushing is going up, but that's supposed to go down. So it raised the front of the engine by 3 inches and was
Jesus
kind of
Christ.
forcing everything back.
That's why we don't rush things.
No, we didn't rush things. There was just 0 instructions, 0 pictures. There's no reference.
Were there any arrows on it?
Nope, not at all.
Interesting.
No instructions, pictures, nothing of any kind. I
Yeah.
even scoured the internet just to make sure.
Yeah.
So I put it like that because that's how the original mount looks with it sticking up like that. So it was a fairly logical thing to think of in the moment, but then once I realized that, flipped it over, everything went together so much easier.
Yeah.
And NVH actually wasn't that bad.
Really?
Funny enough. So I got it all back together, and we took it out for a drive with me and Carson, and even like Tyson and Colter were also here. So we loaded up the car with 4 individuals to see how it would do with
really
the
weighed
boost.
it down.
Yeah.
Well, some of them are larger lads.
Yes, exactly. And so it did very well. NVH is really only present at idle. Once
Once there's load on the engine, it goes away?
yeah,
Interesting.
it's smooth.
Huh.
I was quite pleased. And the NVH at idle is not bad.
Well, depending on what you're doing after this, maybe you could go for a rip. I brought film cameras.
Oh, sweet.
So...
It's dirty right now. I went through mud. It's got mud splattered up the side.
I mean, I'm shooting on film.
It'll look cool.
Yeah, it'll look great, yeah.
No, and especially with its chunky snow tires right now, it'll look purposeful. Mm-hmm.
I'm still getting notifications, by the way.
Of?
Just like from like my computer waking up.
Oh my gosh.
It's still saying like YouTube has been updated in the background. I keep getting that. I keep getting like YouTube notifications. Oh my God, stop it. Jesus Christ. We've been recording for how long? 15 minutes?
Yeah. And it's still waking up.
Yeah, so like, hold on, I got more to say.
It's a slow Sunday morning.
Well,
So, I mean, to finish that out, like that all got done, works great. The car runs honestly better and feeling more together than it has in a while.
I'd love to feel it from side seat.
Yeah, and so it makes me really excited. And Colter actually drove it. Because I tried to get Carson to drive it.
Has he driven it before?
Nope. He had never even ridden in it before.
Colter had?
No.
Wow.
I was surprised. He rode in it first while I tested it out, and then he drove it, and he's like, man, this is fun. And I was like, yeah, what I love about that car is a prime example of how it has a top speed of 130, and that's if you're absolute pinned, but it makes like just around town driving zippy and fun.
Yeah.
It's a prime example that like old car fun doesn't equal fast.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, it's actually the opposite, generally. I mean, so we have Colter, who we've talked about before on the podcast.
Yes.
He has an Infiniti G35 that has been like a long-time family heirloom. And he got rid of a B6. Sorry, I was about to say B5, but no. B6 S4 manual wagon, which was a pretty cool car. Real loud exhaust with the AK-47 tune on it.
Yeah.
Which has been sold. And he is kind of looking for the next like fun car because the G35 is just a daily.
Yeah.
Which is a great daily, honestly.
It is.
And so you take someone like that who's come from comfortable driving experiences that kind of remove you from the road. I mean, there is the drama and the immersion of a really fucking loud 4.2 V8.
Yes.
And a manual gearbox, which is, and that's one thing. Just because a car is a manual doesn't necessarily make it that much of a driver's car, right? It can be, but it's not always a given.
Yeah.
And then you throw him into a car that, yes, it's 32 or 3,500 pounds?
30. It's like 3,500 basically.
34, 35?
Yep.
It's still lighter than either of his other cars.
Yes.
It's a short wheelbase.
Narrow too.
Narrow, plucky, plucky power band, punchy turbo,
Weird,
bunch of visibility.
Weird, wraparound windshield visibility.
Well, yeah, and like the doors are like super thin, like compared to what he's used to, and yeah, it's just a much more like rewarding driving experience, and that's why I've been trying to say like. I'm sure the 400Z is great, and I'm sure like you like it as your Nissan fanboyism is to you.
Yeah.
But there's other shit out there.
Well,
right? And actually, yeah. I think like if he just wanted a new car that he doesn't have to worry about any kind of maintenance or reliability or any of that kind of stuff, but he wanted it to be a fun daily, I do think the Type R would be great for him. However,
yes,
I think he needs to drive my car.
I think that would
because my car would be a really great middle ground and I guess a forward evolution of your Saab.
Kind of, yeah.
Because front wheel drive, turbo, manual, rewarding driving experience, hatchback, real fun in the corners.
It's actually even more funny because my car and your car aren't that far off of color-wise.
They're not. You just need some gold wheels.
Yes. I'll do those gold.
Yes.
Anyways,
yes.
That would look bitch.
That would be fire.
Yeah.
That'd be straight fire.
I was actually going to update, speaking of his car search, because I have information on that.
Okay. We'll do that, and I want to talk about something too, but go ahead.
Yeah. He actually, so last week we mentioned he drove a Genesis, and then we talked about that for a bit. This week he actually drove a TLX Type S.
And?
He did like it. He thought it was...
It is the opposite of everything that I was just talking about, but
it is.
Go off.
Yeah. So he said, I think it's an amazing car. Definitely a car I would think about more. And then who knew car shopping would be so hard? But then he...
there are entire podcasts dedicated to people buying cars, but...
Yes. He was mentioning like Type S or Type R are definitely high on the list. He's like he asked me an interesting question, which was, what got you to do a new car that wasn't a manual? Because I'll put it this way, he's not a manual elitist jerk, but he very much has enjoyed a row your own. Understandable. Like,
as car people are into, yes.
Yeah. So I responded with like what I think is, very similar to both mine and your opinion on modern manuals. I said, really, modern manuals honestly aren't as good feeling-wise compared to older ones, and modern automatics are much better than what you're used to with even your Infiniti, let alone anything even older. That and the fact that...
Infinity's an auto?
Yep.
Because they did offer those sedans in stick, too.
Yes.
But...
Yep, so his is an auto. And I also described, this was me referring to the Stinger, that and the fact that when I bought the Stinger, I was doing so much driving for a while that, quite frankly, I wanted to avoid a manual at all costs because of just how much miles I was putting on it. And then the Tacoma was pointless to be a manual because not only are they not good manuals, but it's a work vehicle that stays running all the time.
Right.
I don't want to trust a parking brake. Anyways, so... And that kind of got me thinking, like, yes, like, manuals are disappearing from modern cars. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, though, because just most modern manuals aren't that great compared to things like, look at the NSXs we drove. I know I haven't driven an S2000, but
a lot of money was put into that car, as you and I both know.
Yeah.
With how it is to drive. I would say, I think it might be a little unfair to say most modern manuals aren't that good. Modern VW manuals are not exactly great,
especially those. That's the prime example.
Yeah, yeah. Volkswagen and BMW manuals aren't that great. I'm trying to think of the best modern. I mean, okay, let's play this game here. Where do you draw the line of modern? Are you saying 2010?
I think that would be
2010 or 2015?
2010 to newer. So like any...
I like my car. I mean, I'm biased.
Yeah.
But I think my car is, for those that are listening that might not know who I am, I have a 2016 Fiesta ST. Mm-hmm. And that... It's fun and cheeky in its own kind of light way. The nice thing about hatchbacks and like hot hatchbacks in particular is that the inputs they're just light.
Yeah,
they're just easy. They talk to you, or at least my car talks to me.
Yeah,
but it doesn't require tons of effort in, say, steering or in braking or in shifting or my clutch or shifter. So I'm not going to say that the Fiesta ST is the greatest shifter.
No.
But the Civic Type R, actually, the outgoing, so what, the FK8, I think is what it was called. Mm-hmm. Like the 16, 17, 18, whatever.
Yeah.
Type R. That was great. The Focus RS was really good. I'm trying to think of other modern manuals, because like I could also say like the 997 GT3 is probably one of the best shifters I've ever felt ever.
True.
S2000 is up there. NSX is up there. But those are older.
Yeah.
Because they made the S2000 up until 2009. So that's out. I'm trying to think of other like truly great manuals, because like the M2, no.
I mean, even like
Oh, I lost you. I heard that.
Maybe it's this mic.
You think so? Is that a new cable?
Yeah.
Sorry, people. We were having some technical difficulties. I guess if
and
you
I'm
want
back.
Oh.
Interesting.
Well, we have a backup for you, I guess.
I guess we'll... whenever it's done this, it's stayed going.
I'm trying to think.
Pay
So
attention to it.
that one is... we got that one from Cole, right? And this one was from the other guy?
Yep.
Gotcha. Interesting.
It's possible, but what's funny is that it rarely ever, unplugs or anything, and it only ever does it with this. So maybe it's even this input. So after we're done with this, I might even just try swapping to a different input on the board. It could be the board.
Maybe.
Which that's real easy. We've got plenty of them.
That's true. I mean, also the more that you plug in and unplug that is wear and tear.
Yes, but it has never done it on my Solo at all.
Okay.
Anytime it's been
But
in
it might
there.
be a matter of time, too.
Could be, but...
might just be better just to buy a proprietary one for that room.
Yeah. We'll see.
Or use this.
Yeah.
Or something.
Because this... I've had this going for 6 hours in that room. Never had troubles.
Interesting.
So I'm pretty sure it's just input 1 on this board. I'll move it over after this. But anyways, as far as the...
Best current manuals...
I even
we don't drive that many newer I mean this next year I'm going to be making a push to do weekly content, which in the winter is going to kind of suck.
Yeah.
But okay, well, modern manuals, does the R8 count?
I would say so, because most of it sits 2010 and newer as far as its era. It only had a couple years prior.
Because the last Eric Deitz's Nardo R8, which is the last manual production R8, V8 or V10, I believe. I think his was the last one was a 2014.
Yes.
So that still counts, gated manual. I mean, it's an old tech, it's old technology, but I suppose it falls under. I mean, what else do you have anything to add to that?
So I was thinking through some of the cars we've driven. So that R8 is one. The RS4 barely doesn't make the cut, but that wasn't it was a good manual, but it wasn't necessarily the best either. I think that's one car that would benefit from some...
It's better. I would call it better than it's above a Mark 7 manual.
Agreed. Oh yeah.
It's better.
It's on the better end of the scale, but not necessarily great.
Yeah.
But that car also doesn't really make a 2010 cut. That was really a 2005 chassis that ended in 2007-8.
And that's still outside of our 2010 prerequisite. I mean, what other manual modern cars?
So I was thinking of, we did drive Arias's Roush Mustang, because more or less those have the same transmission that they did back in 2011, like that car did.
Well, the MT82 is also a terrible gearbox for crunching third.
Yes. So I mean that one has its own problems and is decently clunky as far as shift goes, but not necessarily the greatest. You feel a little lost in the weeds when you're going through it. Sometimes
you can. GT350 was good.
997 was pretty good, or 992. Not great, but I'm saying it wasn't bad.
It was kind of gummy.
Yeah, it was, I think, suffers from similar issues to, again, like the Volkswagens, just a little more tightened down in Porsche size, where it doesn't really feel as direct as you expect.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's obviously several that we haven't driven. We have the newest Type R, of course, we haven't driven because that just came out.
Yeah. I mean, there's actually a funny story about embargoing. I don't know. Have you heard anything about this?
No.
So I'm an avid listener of the Smoking Tire, which is where this is going to be my source for this. This news. But there were content creators. So okay, so I think Matt and Zach, or just Matt, was going to do a one take of it.
Yeah.
They had it actually at Road and Track's performance car of the year test, and it was there, but they weren't even allowed to take photos of it or even mention its existence. It just showed up. Okay. Then after that, Honda did a press event during Austin's F1 at COTA.
Okay.
And people were driving it and filming it, and they had their own separate embargo that they were releasing. So the guys like the Straight Pipes did a review.
Okay.
And got to release their content and their embargo. So then Matt is over here like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's not even just because he's getting hosed on, potential revenue from, YouTube and stuff, or Google Ad Rev. But it's not just him, but it's like, hey, we have these, there are other people that were shown this car
And told they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and there's this whole other embargo that like they already had, drives and reviews planned that are set for like the middle of the month.
Jesus.
So like, what the fuck?
Sounds like there was a mix-up in the marketing department. Like
there was definitely a fuck up. Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Yeah. So it's always interesting when like new hyped up cars, come out. There like what I've been noticing over the past definitely few years at least, there kind of seems to be a fuck up or something to put a sour taste in everyone's mouth, whether it's dealer markup or a fuck up in like embargoes being released or like, just random things or like, car companies releasing launch colors on their cars in like fucking weird and ugly colors. Like when the new M4 is still fucking ugly. Doesn't matter what color you put it in. Doesn't matter what aftermarket body kit you use because none of them are good.
No.
But like the acid green or acid yellow on that, and also that really heinous yellow that Nissan put on the 400Z.
Yeah.
That was not a good color.
It's like an off...
I've actually seen that car in blue before, and it looks really, really good.
Yeah, that like off tennis ball yellow that was the launch color was...
Right.
Yeah. A little weird.
Yeah, not great. So there kind of always seems to be something. But let's rope this back in, though, of like really great modern manuals. I mean, it's few and far between, it seems. I'm curious to drive our good buddy Nate's 992 GT3 because that is a different gearbox. For those that are listening and might not know, the 992 generation in the Carrera S, you can't get a base Carrera in manual anymore.
Yeah.
But the Carrera S, you can get in a 7-speed manual and also an 8-speed PDK.
Okay.
Well, the 992 GT3 you can get in the OG, not the OG, but like the outgoing like 991 GT3 6-speed.
Yep.
And I believe it's an 8-speed PDK. I'm gonna Google that actually. 992 GT3 PDK. I haven't like paid much attention to that.
Yeah.
Let's see what Car and Driver has to say about this. I've heard good things. So Justin is scrolling through a Car and Driver article about modern manuals.
Yeah.
The Evora, probably. We know a guy with an Evora.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to hit him up, actually, to do a review on that this year.
I would say it's a fair call because Lowtie generally have had pretty good manuals.
The Elises, the shift linkage has a tendency to stretch.
Yeah.
and those get kind of weird. I haven't heard anything about the Evora doing that. But anyways, you've pulled up a list. Aston Martin Vantage, M3, M4, which is the same shit. I've heard good things about Blackwing.
Yeah, I know that even Matt had good things to say about the Blackwings, like that it was really solid. Both the CT4 and CT5. Camaro, of course.
Some people, I think it was Jason Camisa was driving, he preferred the 4 to the 5. Because the 5 is just too much.
Well, yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Chevy Spark. Interesting. I forgot that was still made with a 5-speed.
I forgot it was still made.
I know. Challenger and... Yeah, the Challenger, which is outgoing as of this year.
Yeah.
Mustang, of course, we already mentioned that. Civic. I know that you can get, it's not just the Type R, you can still get some of the 1.4s with it.
Well, that's it pictured as an SI.
Yes.
So, and I've heard good things about the SI manual. So, okay, there is that. Elantra.
Elantra, yep.
You can get the Elantra N in a manual?
I guess so.
I thought it was their dual clutch only. Wait,
yeah, turbocharged.
N-line
and N.
Can you click on that? I just want to do some diligence here.
Okay, there we go.
I'm still searching this Car and Driver article, and it's not very good.
Sometimes that happens.
Guys, how hard is this to tell me how many gears are in the PDK?
So yeah, it looks like the entry-level engine is only available with the CVTs. Like it was the regular launcher, not the N or the N-line. Then engine, transmission, and performance. Obviously, the hybrid is going to be with the
I don't care about those.
Yeah, exactly.
I just care about the N.
And that's what I'm scrolling
I'm pretty sure the N is dual clutch only.
Interesting. Be a pretty grave error for a Car and Driver to have made to be promoting that the Elantra N
Right.
Can have a manual when it cannot. There we go. 2022.
Okay, the PDK for the 992 GT3, I should have known this, but it is still a 7-speed. I wasn't sure if they went up to the 8.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wait, go back up. Oh yeah, huh. It doesn't say anything about it. They talk about the diff, but they don't talk about
I know.
the gearbox. I am quite sure that it's a dual clutch only. And the fact that they're hiding that that's not in a manual is also a hint.
It's mighty sus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll just go with that.
Keep going.
Whatever. And then where's the next button? That's an interesting one.
I think.
There we go. Yeah. 6-speed manual right there.
Holy shit. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. 6-speed manual and then the 8-speed dual clutch. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, okay. Elantra N and line.
That took some digging.
It did. Veloster.
I've driven Randall's car. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hybrid of manuals, like an overlap between a Mark 7 GTI and my car.
Okay.
It's fine. It's not great.
It's functional.
Yeah.
Kia Forte, not surprised because
probably similar.
That's actually going to be the same transmission as the Veloster.
I was going to say it's probably a similar feel.
Mazda 3. I thought they had ditched that already. Oh, you know what? No, I do know somebody that had a manual Mazda 3. So I think you would have to...
Of the current gen?
I think, yes.
Okay.
You would have to custom order him then, though.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he had to custom order his. Miata, we know that
that's also... that is a great manual. I should have thought about that.
Yeah.
But the ND Miata is solid.
And then there's Mini, which I find funny because I don't know if you've seen the stuff floating around with Mini, how they've gone back and forth as to whether they will continue to offer manuals.
Well, they only have manuals in their base cars. All the fun shit are torque converter autos. They're not even dual clutches.
Yeah. That's because their dual clutch, when they tried it, was horrendous.
Was that on early R56?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Mini's gone back and forth, but it seems like they might be sticking with it because they've started offering free courses to anybody that buys a manual to teach you good driving things.
That's good to see car manufacturers are still doing those, like the owner programs.
Yep. Oh, the Mitsubishi Mirage still exists.
Oh, boy.
We're going to scroll past that.
Anyways.
And the Versa.
Yeah, it came in Boxster and GT4 and all that. And there's a 911, BRZ.
Didn't forget about the BRZ. I've only ever driven one of the older ones, not any of the newer ones.
I've driven a few of the older ones. I drove an E85 one. This dude drove out from Florida in his E80. Okay, so apparently this guy named Jeff.
Yep.
He put $30,000 into aftermarket,
into the car.
Yeah. While still keeping it naturally aspirated. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
The car drove really nice.
Okay, that's a lot.
That's a lot. We're talking carbon fiber drive shaft. We're talking about also they had a fuckload of miles. It had 130,000 miles or 140,000 miles, and it looked fucking mint.
Nice.
Didn't feel like it at all. And that's part of that is probably going through all the tires and the car, the high end wheels that he's had and brakes and all the consumables and all that stuff. But it was something like 25 or 30 grand in parts.
Yeah.
Anyways, he drove that out from Florida to here to have the Everyday Driver guys do a review of it. And that video is actually live right now. They compared. So Everyday Driver drove their current gen 86 against that car. And actually, no, that was a GR86, not a BRZ, but whatever.
Yeah.
They compared those two against a 940 Ford Turbo.
Oh, okay.
Front engine, rear wheel drive, manual, similar power outputs.
4-cylinder.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, because those were 2.5 liter 4-cylinders.
Yep.
Just in a different orientation.
And a very different era.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and Paul is, he has a 928.
Yeah.
That he bought, 18 months ago or 2 years ago now. And so they're probably going to hark back to that. I haven't watched the review yet, but.
Yeah.
Anyways, BRZ. That counts. Okay, keep going.
An Impreza.
Unfortunate.
Yes. WRX.
Yes.
And no STI because it's now gone.
Correct.
Corolla. But I think...
And the GR Corolla is going to have it.
Yes. I think as far as the base Corollas, though, I think this is the last year. I think they did announce that this was the last year the manual will be available on base Corollas.
So what?
GR86, yeah, exactly. GR86, Golf.
Well, they don't make the Golf anymore. It's just GTI and Golf R now.
Yep. So that's going to be well, and they even mentioned that right here.
I mean, I guess they get the Golf goes to Europe. We just don't get it.
Exactly. Jetta, because you can't, especially you can get GLIs.
Yeah, Bronco.
Yeah, true. I actually. Yeah,
they're actually pretty good. It actually felt very similar to mine.
Yeah. No, I was actually surprised when I drove Easton's. Like, this is for a truck chassis manual, because it is on a body on frame. It is technically a mini truck.
Yeah.
As far as frame is concerned.
It is, yeah.
It actually feels pretty good.
Yeah, and I didn't drive his, but I hopped in just the driver's seat at Park City Cars and Coffee once, and I felt the shifter, and it felt pretty good. Good.
The clutch was actually really predictable too. I would agree with your assessment that it's very similar to your feeling.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit more rigid.
A little more rigid, yeah. It was a little stiffer than yours. Yours is a little, sometimes a little light.
Which is part of the point.
Exactly. So yeah, there's that. But I think that's it. That being said, if we look at this list, so
it's not a lot.
It's not a lot. Jetta and Golf are the same transmission. If you could probably half this list if you think about it, because half of this list are cars with different models that share the same powertrain. So,
also cars that are just genuinely not interesting.
Yes, exactly, like Mirage and Spark.
Mirage, Spark, and I would argue Corolla. Corolla's important because they just move a bunch of numbers, but they're not interesting.
Yeah, and then if you look at the GR86 and the Subaru share the same transmission, all of the Koreans share the exact same manual with minor differences. They are identical.
Okay. So same gear sets?
Yes, I believe so.
Interesting.
Because it's all just made off the same platform, same transmission, everything. I think the only difference
they pulled a Volkswagen.
Yes, the only difference is going to be the diff. That's where their differences are.
Their differences?
Like the base Elantra versus an Elantra N, it's different clutch and diff. But the actual internals, it is the same code.
Interesting.
So you could cut this list in half, effectively, of half of these cars,
which is sad,
share the same shit. Yeah, it is sad. It's sad, but it's kind of the end of an era, and we're literally witnessing that as it happens, because it's been every year.
Which is very strange.
It is. Every year, the list gets smaller and smaller to where we're under 30 cars now.
Yeah.
And it is a saddening thing, but as we've just gone through
also
this
they did not mention the Lotus Emira, which is upcoming, so I don't know if it technically counts. When was this article released? Because they mentioned the current WRX, they mentioned Blackwing, they mentioned Elantra N, so it's somewhat
2022 April. So
okay,
it's about 6 months outdated at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess if they do this next year, the Emira is probably going to be in there, and the Type R is going to be in there,
and the Challenge will be off, and be a few drops at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
It really
this opens the door for boutique manufacturers like Gunther Works and Singer to really keep charging more money, because those are experiences that you can't buy new anymore. You have to buy an old car and do shit to it.
They are literally now boutique. Even they already were.
They've always been boutique, yeah. But and that's part of the thing that's going to drive up prices of Mark IV Supras and R34 GTRs, and they provide an experience that you can't buy new anymore. So you have to buy something that has already gone through its production cycle. It's that you're going that forces you to go to a product that is a limited commodity.
Exactly. And it's one of those weird things where I have mixed feelings, because if we look at going through this list, there's so few of these that are probably truly good feeling manuals. It's probably half or less of the list that versus you did have quite a selection for quite a long time when manuals were still better than their automatic equivalents in a lot of standpoints.
I mean, it took until dual clutches got good.
Yep. Exactly.
And, which happened just before the ZF 8-speed came out
and stole some thunder back from the dual clutches.
Right. But also the Supra that has a ZF 8-speed is going to be, it's already released, and there have already been drives of them in manual. They're bringing back the 6-speed for that. So that's cool.
Which I think is cool, and I hope that it continues to stay alive for at least a few more years with things like that, or even the mini thing, offering to teach people manual to show them how to drive their manuals. Yeah. I think that's really cool. I would make a prediction here now that we have less than a decade left of that. Looking at how many flies have dropped.
Well, and I've heard people talk about who do you think is going to be the last car company that's going to offer a manual in their cars? And I believe is Porsche,
Probably.
because they saw the resurgence of when they saw what happened with their owners when they dropped the manual from the 991.1 GT3, and how people got booty bothered when the turbo lost its manual during 997.2.
And then the 911R fiasco, where that was supposed to be, the
manual GT3, and then they brought back the manual GT3 with the 991.2. I know we're kind of off in the weeds with generation codes here, but bear with me.
Realistically, the TLDR is they toyed around with the idea of getting rid of the manual in favor of just PDK, and it didn't go well.
No, which is interesting because you can't buy 911 turbo anymore, but the 911s, their base 911s, are turbocharged, and you can get a Carrera S in manual, and you can also get a 991.2. So the previous generation of 911, you could get a base manual of those.
Yep.
And you can tune them shits and make them as fast as a 997 turbo, or faster, and you have a manual. So it's an interesting place to be with that. But I do believe that of all the people or of all the brands to, keep on beating the manual driving drum, it's going to be Porsche.
And I'm actually surprised, to be honest, that Volkswagen has even continued to offer a manual, really, at this point. Because,
Volkswagen, for those that are maybe the uninitiated, pioneered the hot hatchback.
They did. Mm-hmm.
So, the real OG, was something from Renault. I think probably the R5.
Yeah.
That might have potentially predated it. You want to check that, actually?
Yeah.
Hey, Jamie, pull that up. Hey, Justin, pull that up.
I'm just literally going to search first hot hatchback and see if it pulls up.
It's going to say GTI, probably.
That's just the history. I'm actually not going to do that one. Hot hatch, the Mini Cooper. I wouldn't call that. That's not a hatchback.
No. Well, what's under the people ask? People ask, what's the first hot hatchback car? The first thing.
Oh,
people also ask. Up. There.
Oh, gotcha. Yep. Oh, interesting.
Does anyone know what a 1973 Simca 1100 Ti is? If you do, get at us in the DMs.
If you do,
speed.com.
If you do, you definitely live in Europe.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Most of them are saying GTI, because I guess it depends
85. Look up a Renault R5 and see what the production for that was. I wasn't sure if it was before. I thought it was.
Okay. Renault R5, 1972. But I guess it depends on what you define as a hot hatch, because
R5 Turbo.
R5 Turbo. Okay, I'll search that. Because if it wasn't hot yet, but it was a hatchback.
It doesn't count. Because the original GTI had 84 horsepower.
80 to 84. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But how limited was that production? That might be the other factor.
It was a homologated car.
Okay.
It was homologated for rally, but...
I'm wondering if most people don't include that in the list then, because it
didn't come here.
It didn't come here, and it also wasn't like fully fledged production, quote unquote, because there's probably limited number.
That doesn't. What's your cutoff for that?
I don't know if there is one. That all I'm saying is, looking at how many lists we just scrolled through.
Because GT3s are also limited.
Yeah.
Or they used to be. Can you find production counts for this? Because I would say that this counts.
I would agree. I'm just wondering if that's why a lot of people...
They weren't such a sales success, partially because they weren't sold here, and people might have liked the form factor. This is also a mid-engine car
right here. 1,000 for GT3 or for Group 3 homologation, with an eye of building an additional 3,000 factory US models for sale, but I don't think that ever happened.
Okay.
Okay, I can see that low of a number being okay, it's not a regular production car, because it's not something you could just go buy at a random dealership. That might be why a lot of people omit it, is because it wasn't just as standard.
Well, things also happen differently in Europe too with buying cars.
Yes,
but the whole industry,
So I'm wondering if that's why it's omitted from so many lists, because most of the lists we just scrolled past as I was reading through them.
It's also not the easy. It's not the easy answer.
Exactly.
Whereas most people just go for the easy answer of it's a Mark 1 GTI.
Yeah, because it makes sense. There's so many of those, comparatively speaking.
Sure.
That is the easy answer.
Yeah.
I would say that, to me,
what's the fastest car in the world?
Yeah,
the Bugatti Chiron.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, is it?
Sort of.
Yeah.
No,
same
I'm
kind of
with
thing.
you on this. I would agree that this counts because it was sold to the general public.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that, but I'm wondering if that's why so many people have omitted it. It
probably is.
Between easy answer and technically limited production. Whereas the GTI wasn't ever technically limited, especially in the first run. Like, it was just, oh, how many can we sell?
Yeah.
But that being said, I actually just had a funny thought. Like, my Saab turbo predates all of these, but it's not really a hatchback. That's the thing.
It kind of is. But it didn't like fit into the category of hot hatchback. It wasn't marketed that way.
No, and it's a lot longer. It's this weird, I've always described it as it's this weird middle ground meeting of sports car, luxury car, hatchback, like kind of just formed into one.
But somewhat sedan-like at the same time.
It's a very odd thing.
Yeah.
There's not
like you.
Yes. It's not there's not really a category that it easily fits in.
Yeah.
At all. I mean, it had heated seats in 1979 when like that was like an S-class level feature. Mm-hmm. It had, like I said, electronic boost control. It had all these crazy things, but then like it wasn't like a handling car, but it had power, but it wasn't a hot hatchback, but it had a massive anyways.
But it's a front engine transverse
longitudinal.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was longitudinal.
Yeah. Front engine.
Well, it's longitudinal, but backwards.
Yes.
And upside down.
It's lunge backwards.
Yes. Yes.
Anyways, but getting back on track here, how did we get here?
Maybe that's what we'll call this podcast.
How did we get here?
Yes.
Yeah. No, we came from manuals and just started going backwards.
Yeah, but, I mean, we tangent, which is why we have a podcast.
I think with the legacy of the manual and everything, I do think being like, I stand by what I said, that I think it will probably be almost dead within 10 years. And I agree, Porsche will probably be one of the last ones standing.
Yeah. Because Ferrari and Lamborghini have ditched it entirely.
Yep.
If we're talking about like boutique manufacturers, right? Aston is still keeping it going, but barely.
Yep.
Do we even know what that trans is from? Because the engine. So what's interesting, where Aston's at right now, the 4-liter turbo that's in there is from the AMG GT. Yep. The AMG GT uses Mercedes' own dual clutch, and Aston, I believe, uses ZF auto.
So they don't mention what transmission it is, but let me go to the actual article and see.
Don't know what it's actually from, but Aston uses the torque converter auto, and Mercedes uses a dual clutch, which is why they kind of did it that way. They wanted to have the Mercedes, like the original thing that had that, be its own thing, and have Aston kind of be its own thing. Because Aston has always been more luxury anyway. Like, they've been exotic and they've been sporty, but they haven't been like really focused driver's cars, right? So they don't need to be as snappy as, say, something like a Porsche.
No, they've been more GT-esque.
They've always been that way, yeah.
So that didn't say it all. So Aston Martin Vantage.
It's gonna pull up the last one probably, but
let's see. That's the difficulty.
Which is also one of the fucking prettiest cars ever made.
It is. Aston has always, for the most part, for the past 20 years, knocked it out of the park.
Well, because they had one car for 20 years. That's why.
Fortunately, that car aged well.
It did. It did.
I guess you can give them credit for that. Like, they may have kept the same damn thing for 20 years, but like that car doesn't look that dated. It looks very good.
Which is what, and I think that's also why when the new Vantage came out, in 2019?
Yeah.
That's also one of the things that I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on. I mean, Aston has been in a weird place for the past few years with ownership and people running the company.
Well, and I mean, now they're, owned by different people, but buying engines from AMG, and then,
Well, there's that, but there's also the people running the shit. Like, they've changed hands recently, too, of, like, bosses.
Yeah, I'm curious. I wouldn't be. So it's a 7-speed manual. That's what's weirding me out, is that it's a 7-speed manual, but like the only person I know that makes a 7-speed manual is Porsche, and it's obviously not that.
Well, so Porsche makes one. Corvette had one.
Oh yeah, Corvette did.
Aston had a dogleg 7-speed in the previous gen Vantage V12S, and I think they have one in their current one too. It's going to make for great radio, people.
I know. No, I'm just genuinely curious. I mean,
This is the problem with just randomly Googling shit.
I know. It really makes me wonder who actually makes this. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Getrag, just because that is
probably
a local company over there.
Probably.
That is honestly at this point one of the last like transmission manufacturers that will make kind of quote unquote bespoke transmissions for something like this, because that AMG does not come with a manual.
No.
Mercedes hasn't made a manual since like 2005.
It was like the SLK, I think, was the last car that we got here with the manual. You can still get them in Europe, but yes, if you the listener know what the actual transmission is in the new Aston Martin Vantage, please feel free to get at us. If you know us personally, you can, I guess, DM us. Or if you want to DM the show, we're at Exhibition of Speed on Instagram.
Yeah, because I'd be genuinely curious, and if I find out between now and next week, I'll update.
We can. I'd be glad to have an addendum to this later.
Agreed. I did actually have one final funny thing to note, since we've actually touched on Porsche several times. So we have a good friend of ours that we at one point in time tried to film something with his 997 GT3, Ryan, and he's a client of mine. He has a GT3 RS, a 991.2 GT3 RS that I detail occasionally. Well, he bought a 992 as a daily. It was a 992 PDK. It was a Carrera.
It's been riddled with problems, right?
Oh, it's no more.
What do you mean it's no more?
It's been lemon lawed.
Oh!
So I don't know all of the specifics, but it basically came down to it had 9,000 miles when he bought it. By 9,500 miles, it was in the shop with complete turbo failure.
Yeah.
By 10,000 miles, it had complete infotainment failure. By 11,000 miles, it had multiple other electrical failures.
Jesus
it was
Christ.
a complete basket case. So it was lemon lawed and then replaced with a Macan S.
Jesus. He's just like, I want nothing to do with 992s anymore. Fuck this.
Kinda, yeah. He's like, that's the first bad experience I've had with a Porsche. And he's had a few of them. And he
still has his RS, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be getting rid of that. He's like, as tantalizing as the money is, I know I could never replace this car now if I sold it. Not for the price he paid for that is the main thing.
What did he pay for it?
I mean, it was like 180 or less.
No.
It was not much.
It was sub 200?
He got a killer deal on
Jesus.
it. Especially when it was only had 3,500 miles and was outfitted with those HRE wheels. And like it was a PPF top to bottom.
I mean, he could, in theory, from my understanding, I haven't driven a new 992 GT3.
Yeah.
It would be more money.
Yes.
Especially with what markup is on those right now. But he could overlap the experiences of 997 GT3, which is what he had before.
Yep.
And 991 RS, because I've heard, as far as like ride quality and like sharpness with the car, like with steering and with all that stuff, that the 991 GT3 is closer to what the 992 GT3 is closer to what the outgoing RS was rather than the outgoing GT3.
It's everything like bumped up a step.
Kind of, yeah. Well, because when 991 came out, they were like, we're going to probably sell a lot of these. We want to make them a bit more drivable, like livable, like kind of like how the R8, turned a bunch of other supercars into daily drivers.
Yes.
So Porsche went in that direction, and then they kind of overcorrected, I think, and started to go backwards. And they're like, oh, let's make this hardcore again and make it more of an occasion thing. But if he got a manual GT3, he could kind of have the marriage of both of those cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. In theory.
In
I
theory.
don't know.
No,
it's not my money, though. So
yeah. No, and also, to be clear, I don't know exactly what he paid. I just know from what he's told me, it was a killer deal, like a deal that he didn't think would exist at the time, and that it's worth...
I wouldn't be surprised if he got it for like 2 or 210 or 220.
He knows, he just said that either way, he has not far off 6 figures in equity in the car based on current trading value.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could straight trade that for a 992 GT3.
Yeah, which is nuts.
Which, like, seeing as what crazy markup is right now, I could see that happening.
Yeah. So, anyways, I thought it was interesting that like Porsches are generally very dependable cars for the most part, but like
they've always been like, even since the 80s, they've been like pretty robust. So to hear one get lemon lawed is like, oh fuck.
Yeah. And it when he took it in for the first issue, they didn't try to say that he had caused it, but they're like, oh, well, I mean, turbo failure doesn't usually happen, so like we don't know if we'll warranty this. Is like, you better sure as hell you will. I've only had it for a month.
Yeah.
And I bought it from you guys.
And he didn't track it.
No, from somebody else. It's been daily driven. Like,
yeah,
he bought it from some rich girl in California.
Well, it's interesting because our other friend, who I've driven a slew of his cars, and I did a review of his RS6.
Yes.
He had a 992 911S, a Carrera 2S that had a 7-speed manual, and he drives his cars pretty good, and we drove that car. Me in particular, pretty good. And he had his for what, a year?
It was about a year. Yeah.
It was about a year, and I hadn't ever heard anything come from that car.
No. I mean, even when it was only like a month or so after he got the car when we did our shoot.
Yeah.
And I mean, he did donuts like, you know, like a yabo.
Yes.
On a causeway.
On a causeway in Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, he's a combination of...
Well, and also in the same day, the car also hit 172 miles an hour.
Yes.
On said causeway.
Exactly. He's both. He's degaff, but in a good way.
Yes.
You know, not in a stupid way where he's pissing off everybody else, but degaffing like, we're gonna try this for the fun of it.
Yeah, fuck it.
Exactly. So, well, that being said,
well, I wanted to talk about something, but I guess
yes.
we could, no. Well, how long have we been going for?
We have been an hour.
Let's just cut it here, and I'll save it for next week.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah. Let's save it for next week. I mean, okay, we need to do a better job of promoting our swag because no one's bought any recently. So if you want to support the show, feel free to head on over to www.exhibitionofspeed.com, and there is a shop section where you can buy some t-shirts, you can buy hats, you can buy stickers. There's an option to buy hoodies because guess what? Winter is upon us. It's going to be in the lows up here in the single digits next week. So time to bundle up and grab yourself some swag while you're at it. So head on over to exhibitionofspeed.com and grab yourself a hoodie or a hat. Or
all conveniently shipped to your door.
Yeah, what, $5 shipping?
$5 shipping.
It's still $5 shipping?
It's still $5 shipping,
Shit.
which to be honest was a little bit of a thing to calculate because like shipping hats. Shipping everything else can just be stuffed in a bag. That's fine. Shipping hats, though,
they're structural.
Yeah, to not crush your hat, I literally ship them in boxes, which sometimes doesn't quite cover that $5 shipping charge within about 50 cents or so. But I would rather have it get to your door in one piece, not crushed, than otherwise. Right. So therefore, your hat is not going to get crushed.
Exactly. So help your boys out. Buying merch from us helps us directly create more content because we can buy better gear and more gear, and we can afford to put gas in cars. So
think of it like a Patreon, but you get something physical.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, people also like ship out like merch and stuff for that too?
They do, yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, until next time, I've been Gavin,
and I've been Justin,
and this has been the Exhibition of Speed podcast. Goodbye.